In Nagano's mountain valley, Obon nights glow with lantern light and taiko drums. Families welcome ancestors with mukaibi at their gates and set paper boats to drift down the river. Every year someone notices a guest no one invited. Chapter 1. Lanterns by the River. Paper lanterns bobbed like warm stars along the riverbank, their red tassels trembling in the light breeze. Ayumi's yukata clung cool to her skin, morning glory blossoms shimmering as she moved. Vendors called gently over sizzling oil, and the scent of sweet soy and grilled squid braided with incense from the temple hill. Children ran past with sparklers, leaving brief constellations in their wake. On the bridge, Ayumi leaned over to read the inked names on lanterns. Grandfathers, aunties, a baby lost too soon, floating toward the bend. A tall man in a black kimono stood at the far rail, hat brim low. He didn't carry a lantern. He didn't seem to breathe. When people jostled, the crowd pressed around him without touching. Their motions made a gap, the way water curves around a buried stone. "Don't look," her grandmother said, fingers tightening on her sleeve. "Face the river. Make your wish." Ayumi's throat tightened at the urgency in the old woman's voice. She bowed toward the water, but in the corner of her eye the man's silhouette matched their steps as they left the bridge, always at the same distance, as if attached by an invisible string. Chapter 2. The Man Without Lantern. The festival lane narrowed between food stalls, lanterns dangling low enough to brush hair and hands. People laughed and called across to friends, trading paper fans and bites of shaved ice. The stranger threaded through without bumping anyone, hat always tipped to hide his features. Ayumi lost sight of him near a goldfish scooping game, only to find him waiting at the next corner, head bowed, sleeves tucked neatly over still hands. She tried to fix his details, pattern of the kimono, the stitching at the collar, but everything blurred. It was like trying to remember a dream while waking. Her grandmother's grip was iron. "He has no lantern," the old woman murmured. "Those without light are not ours." For an instant, a gust lifted the hat's brim. The face beneath was an absence, skin too smooth, as though features had not been carved yet. Ayumi swallowed a cry. People moved between them, chattering, oblivious. The hat settled again. The stranger turned his head toward the river, and every lantern flame nearby fluttered lower, as if his gaze pulled at their heat. Chapter 3. A Name in the Water. Down at the bank, families knelt to lower paper boats onto the water. Toronagashi, lights for the journey, names inked by careful hands. Ayumi set her lantern afloat, the little flame bowing to the current. The stranger stood knee-deep, kimono darkening. Not wet exactly, but changing, like ink spreading in rice paper. He extended 2 fingers into the current. Where his skin met water, ripples formed orderly strokes. Characters unfurled on the river's surface, black against moonlight. Ayumi. She stumbled back, heart thudding. Her lantern wobbled, caught a new thread of current, and drifted around him in a wide loop, avoiding the shadow he cast. "Look at me," came a voice without air, not from the bank or the water, but from within the syllables of her name themselves. The hat did not move. The eyeless tilt of his head told her he knew she understood. Her grandmother thrust a small charm into her palm, a cloth pouch that smelled faintly of smoke and sage. "Hold it tight," the old woman said. "We lit Mukaibe for our own. He is not ours." Chapter 4. The Empty Street. The drums faded to a far heartbeat as Ayumi and her family walked home under cicada-sung trees. Paper scraps clung to her gaita. The night felt kind, threaded with cooking smells and laughter. Then the street ahead emptied, as if a rush of wind had blown everyone into doorways. The man stood alone beneath a lamp, hat brim shadowing nothingness. He tilted his head, and the lamplight washed across a smooth plain where features should be. No eyes to meet, no mouth to invite or deny. Yet she felt watched, and she felt addressed. The omamori charm pulsed warm in her fist. "Pass by," her grandmother whispered. "Do not engage." Ayumi stepped sideways, refusing the desire to center him in her vision. The smell of river water rose, cold green, a scent from nights when floods climbed the embankment and took unclaimed souls with them. She blinked, and the street was full again. Neighbors laughing, a cat batting a wind-tossed ribbon. A wet footprint dried on the asphalt at her feet, vanishing edge first as if sucked into the ground. Chapter 5. The Folklore of Mukaibe. The next morning, Ayumi visited the temple to return borrowed lantern frames. The head priest accepted them with a nod and poured tea for her grandmother. "Obon invites," he said, watching the steam rise, "but it also warns. Our lights call those we love, and sometimes those with no one left to call them." He spoke of Muenbotoke, the dead without graves or families to tend them. Drawn by lanterns, they walk among crowds, faceless in stories because no memory gives them features. "They are not evil," he added, "only hungry for belonging. But hunger makes trespass." He showed Ayumi how to place Mukaibe, small fires at home's threshold, and how to hang a sprig of shiso to scent the doorway. "Light for ours," he said, "boundaries for others." That night, their gate flames guttered politely in the wind and went out on their own as tradition prefers. On the river, the last paper boats blinked like distant stars, heading toward a bend where the living do not follow. Festivals call what is loved and what is missing. If a stranger walks without a lantern, do not lend yours. Bow, pass by, and keep your light for those who know your name. Obon welcomes ancestral spirits with lanterns, Toro Nagashi on rivers, and Mukaibe welcoming fires at household gates. Folklore warns of Muenbotoke, unclaimed spirits, sometimes depicted faceless like Noperabo. Omamori charms and threshold rites mark a boundary between invited ancestors and other wandering dead.